Call the meeting back in session. Board Secretary.
This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the board on any item not on the agenda regarding district business. State law prohibits the district from taking any action on any item not on the agenda unless authorized under section 54954.2 sub B of the government code, and your matter may be referred to general manager. An individual may also address the board on any agenda item at the time the matter is discussed and prior to board consideration or action. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. Your time will start when you approach the podium, and you'll be given a 30-second warning before your time expires. If you choose to ask a question during this time, any response by the board will not extend your time. Questions may be referred to the general manager to be answered at a later time after the meeting. In order to allow for a smooth and orderly meeting and allow each speaker the ability to address the board, disruptions from the audience will not be tolerated, and you can be asked to leave. We appreciate your cooperation in this democratic process.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to give the public an opportunity to make any comments that are on non-agenda items. Have anybody like to speak? No one coming forward. We'll move on to our minutes. M1, approved July 17th, 2018 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second. All right, moved by Mr. Wolford, second by Mr. McKay. Does anybody have any comments they'd like to make? We'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Lansgard gone. Okay, consent calendar, CC1. Approve the check voucher, register date 7/10/18 to 7/30/18. Moved by Mr. Glennon, second by Mr. McKay. Any comments from the public?
Yeah, we don't have to send Dolly out of the room this time.
That is correct. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
4. Mr. Lansgard absent. We'll move right on to new business. Receive and file the estimated water demand study. Presenter is Mr. Ron Smith, our General Manager.
Yes, Mr. President. Demand for water demand for when developers were coming out in the past, there were estimates, that engineers used throughout California or throughout the nation. The one that's always quoted in the press is that an average house uses 1 acre-foot of water a year. And that's what the average home is. And an acre-foot is 325,851 rounded up of gallons. So, and that was fine because that's your estimating. Even if you estimated over a little bit, that would be fine because you have this cushion in order to give out will-serve letters and develop when you have a large source of water. But as you know, because of the Fremont Valley Groundwater Adjudication starting this year, we're ramping down. In 5 more years, we're only going to be able to extract 404.42 acre-feet from our adjudicated rights. There are return flows and some other things. We've had developers come and question how we're calculating the demand, and that's important because they have to pay a water acquisition fee, and the going rate right now is $10,000 per acre-foot of demand. The state of California also asked during the arsenic consolidation, can we see your numbers, how you're estimating that water demand, because ultimately we're going to have to pay a fee for it. So I did a statistical analysis of our whole district, and we took 1 year's of water usage, 16-17, of all homes that had 12 months of water usage. Okay? We did the same thing for mobile home parks. We did the same thing for apartments. On apartments, it was a little different. Some of them only had 11 months, so we calculated a little bit different, but we still had to do it. So the idea was, we took a mean, a statistical mean, and it's in the report how you do the statistics. You take the population, which is mu, and then you divide the number of individuals after you add up all the data points, right? And that gives you your mean, or what people call an average. So the average came out to one number, like 0.31 for homes. But we're talking about behavior. Water use behavior is very mercurial. It changes with who moves in there. Now Ed, I think he might only use like a ½ acre-foot a year. He's very conservative. But you might have somebody else move in, put a pool, some walking trees, and we have homes in the same neighborhood, same type of homes, One home's using 0.3 acre feet, another one's using 2.6, right? We're here to protect the district. We have to make sure we have the right amount. We don't want to overdo, but we want to make sure that we're asking for enough to protect ourselves. So it was prudent for us to take the conservation number that we've had from 2008 until 2017, we had a 42% conservation. But as you can see, during this severe drought, people were conserving, we were really pushing for it, but our water usage started going back up again. People said, oh, there's no more drought. If we start getting some more rain, if there's no more drought in California, if we were flooded all the time, as you know, that's not going to change the amount of water we can extract from the ground for 17 years. That's when the water master can change the amount that the safe native yield. So we put the 42% back in. But then I did an analysis and I said, okay, wait a minute, you have really high users at this end and really low users at this end, and then we have an average of those users. How much difference, since you could have an average user of, 0.31 say, and then another person could move in there and use a whole lot of water. We have to prepare for that. It's not that this house can do, like getting gas mileage on a car, right? Yeah, you give it to Ricky Racer, it's not going to get that gas mileage that it was advertised for, right? So we have to adjust for that. So I took the top 20%, what would be 80 percentile, all the way to 100 percentile of the highest users. I threw out the top 5%, considered them as outliers. So I did from 80% to 95%. And I did an average or a mean of that small population. Then I compared that population with what the average user uses on that number. The difference in homes was 77% and 67% in mobile homes. So that, and the engineers and I decided that justified us putting what we call a stability factor within the number, and that puts it up to 25% more. So when you're at the end of the day, if you look at the last page of the report, after we did the estimated water demand, single-family homes is 0.76, a mobile home park is 0.5, and a multifamily home is 0.44. Now, when you take that 0.76 and you compare it to two other districts that are similar to us in a similar area, Palmdale District is 0.78, Quartz Hill is 1.1. So we're right there in the range with the what I call, I don't want to call it a cushion or a padding, but basically what it is in layman's term, but it's a stability factor just in case. So we got the conservation in there because it's all about behavior. So now we're going to use this report. This is going to end up in the water master plan that you'll approve, and all those. It won't be in the sewer master plan. And that water master plan, then when we get it sometime in January, will be used to actually calculate connection fees. And so this will be used that a house uses X amount of water every year. That's what the number that we're giving it. That's the demand. So then if we put in 500 homes, what's the stress on our system going to be? How many water pumps? How many wells? How many tanks? So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer the questions.
How much is a unit of water? That's what we have on our bill.
Yeah, a unit of water is 100 cubic feet. And yeah, I have it here. So if you look on page 1, and it says data collection, the way we collect the data, it says total, second paragraph, total annual usage in 100 cubic feet, HCF, was then converted into gallons, and HCF equals 748 gallons. So then you take the HCF times 748, divide it by how many gallons in an acre foot, and that gives you your acre foot per year, AFEY. So all that information on how we calculated the data points is right there in the data collection section.
In a year, I use
120, I can do that calculation. So 123 units times 748 gallons divided by 325,851, you use about 0.3 acre feet. So you're not the lowest,
right in that.
but you're down in the low end. You're conservative, which is good because you run the water district. So I'm glad you're being a conservationist.
Back in 2013, which is our base year, I used 190 units that year.
Okay, so you
So I
still,
went down.
okay.
But still, 190 units wouldn't be probably 0.5.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what we're going to have to do when the state tries to implement Brown's internal 55 gallons per day one. I know when I was really conservative with my home and everything, I used about 65 gallons per day, and that was being really strict. So it's, yeah, the average home used 260 gallons per day per capita. And we actually talk about, you know, the conservation numbers in there also, what the difference was, how we calculated it. If you look at conservation, it talks about that in the 12-month period ending in May from the district in 2008, we were 189.6 gallons per day per capita. And then at the end of 2017, we were 108.37 gallons per day per capita. And this was a 42.68% difference. But we back that back into the usage because that's when everybody's conserving, right? If it starts raining here, and that's the thing that people need to understand. It doesn't matter how much rain we have or whether we're flush with water and all the aqueducts are filled and everything's fine. Rosamond can only pump 404.42 acre feet, not counting federal and return flows, but we've got to purchase the other water, so we want to make sure we have the, and that's water for our ratepayers now. We don't have the water to take on another 500 homes unless we get water rights, or we buy very, very expensive water.
You said 748 gallons to a unit?
Correct. And well, yes, because a unit stands for 100 cubic feet. So a cubic foot is only, what, 7.48 gallons, but 100 cubic feet, then you bump it up to 748.
Any other questions?
Mr. President, I move that we receive and file the estimated water demand supply as presented by General Manager Ron Smith.
Moved by Mr. McKay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Glenn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, new business 2. Adopt resolution 2018-15 amending the administrative handbook. Again, presenter Mr. Ron Smith.
Yes, so by state law, we need a policy for escheatment. Escheatment is the process, it's an old English word of saying giving it back to the state. And so an example of the process would be, you know, somebody quit their water service with us, gave us a return address, and we sent their $200 deposit back, and then we can't find it. And we don't have them. We have the money on the books for over 3 years. This is the way that we basically put the money back into the general fund of whence it came. So if it was sewer, then it goes into the sewer. If it's water, it goes into the water. And so this is the policy. I didn't write this one. I helped write the beginning of it, and then Brad's assistant Joanne, I think, wrote this, right, Brad?
Yes.
Yes, she does a good job. So that's for you there. So now we have a policy to follow to actually put the money back in the general fund.
Any questions? Any questions from the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion to,
So I move to adopt resolution number 2018-15.
Second.
motion given by Mr. McKay, seconded by Mr. Williford. Roll call vote.
Vice President Wolford,
Aye.
Director Lundberg absent, Director Glenn,
Yes.
Director McKay,
Yes.
President Schimmeldecker.
Aye. All right, moving
Motion
on to
carries.
director's reports, comments, and future agenda items. Mr. Glenn.
I attended the meeting of the Willow Springs Water Bank on August the 2nd. The state reservoirs are just at about the normal level for this time, and the precipitation, it says, is slightly below normal. So it wasn't a wet year, dry year, almost just kind of a normal year. There was an article in the paper today, bottom of the fold. It says water project set for funding, and that's about the Willow Springs Water Bank. Our next meeting, and I don't know if Ron will refer to that tonight at all or not, there's going to be an addendum to the EIR for the water bank that we need to, as a board, approve so we can move forward with receiving this grant. And if you read the paper, we're talking about almost $100 million to help finish out the water bank out there. And we're still working on a $15 million grant from FEMA for the water bank, and Kern County has taken the lead and is becoming very interested in our water bank, Kern County itself. Then I also attended the Water Master meeting on the 7th. They had a draft report that was adopted with a brief review, and you can see that online. Some new and replacement well applications were approved. Proposed water transfers, a couple were approved. There seems to be a final agreement on the ramp down numbers for all parties. It seems like they've settled.
So we have ours.
But these are the concerns I saw. There's a concern clearly for unknown pumpers. There's no fixed number. They don't know how many out there are pumping that they don't know about. And the concern over pumpers that they know about but don't have meters to read to show their production. And there's concern about installing meters. There's not enough people out there installing meters to keep up with the demand. So those are concerns they have. And you referred to this, and it's, to me, one of the biggest concerns I think they need to push. This is a concern over the 17-year timeline for any reevaluation of the native safe yield. To me, we need to push that sooner than 17 years. That's a long ways off.
We're in year 3 right now.
Yeah, to evaluate what the native safe yield is, because there's a lot of argument over that when they initially established it. And if the native safe yield does come back up, if we can demonstrate that, then our ability to pump goes up significantly.
Absolutely.
I would just like to add one thing. At the Water Master meeting that I attended also, there was a group there, they presented a outlook for valley fever, and with the drawback of farmers farming, one of the things that they explained there, the germ that causes Antelope Valley fever is not in the soil for farmers. And when the farmers quit farming, they're looking at the valley fever death rate in this area is going to increase by a total of 15 people. So, you know, I don't know if you ever had a family member with valley fever. It's nothing to joke about. It's a very serious disease, and it's caused by the blowing dust that's here. And so that was one of the things there. And then I attended on July 24th AVAC's meeting, and they approved the resolution number R1895, setting the tax rates for Los Angeles, Kern, and Ventura counties. And there was no increase in the tax rate. So we need to applaud them for that. And also, they're still at the 35% rate of what their allotment is for drawing water in. That's the end of my report.
Mr. Wolf.
I really don't have anything to report, except that I do have a friend that is still recovering from valley fever. And it's, like you said, it's nothing to mess with. Other than that.
All right. Move on to general council update. Allison Burns.
I have no report tonight.
Thank you. General manager update. Mr. Smith.
Anytime any board members want to come on a little ride, you can come and see the big hole that we're digging out there. And John actually was out there with the bulldozer too. And for our, as we know, the technical term is the disposal of secondary water by percolation. We're calling it our new water tank. We're down. We got down past all the clay, and there's about 20 feet of sand and down below. I also have a hydrology report. We look like we found, remember we're talking about, can we go to the Fremont Valley and get water? Because we're right, part of our boundaries are right at the edge. But by law, we can actually go outside our boundaries and drill a well. So Kenny Jenks, their hydrologist from San Francisco, found 2 potential sites. So we're going to be doing test wells. That's in the budget also. And if we do some test sites, depending on the water quality, what we can do, there's a number of different ways that we're looking at. We haven't planned it yet about which way, but we could bring it directly to tank 5. If there's an arsenic issue, we can also take it down and use the purple pipe that we're not going to use, that's already there, and convey that water all the way down and blend it with some of the secondary water that we're percolating, and the percolation will get rid of the arsenic along with the secondary water. And so and for you to realize how huge of a thing that is, we're not restricted on how much we pump from there. It's not adjudicated, it's not even on the Sigma. It's not going to be up there. So that means every acre foot that we bring in from the Fremont Valley next year, on a 5-year rolling average, we can pump 39% of an acre foot from our own wells because we've imported an acre foot. So you talk about with the percolation pond, 1,500 acre feet almost makes us whole. If we have this and can pump all that, we'll be able, Rosamond could be the only place developers are actually building homes because we'll be able to give the cheapest water, will serve letters out there. So it could really be a boon for the community. So we're hoping, crossing our fingers, we'll see what the chapels do.
Is the percolation rate out there slow enough so you can swim in what he's digging?
No. We can switch you down with a hose while you're out there if you want.
Which water are you going to use?
A secondary water effluent. It's denitrified though.
Fremont Valley, you're calling that like Bacchus Road area?
Yeah, it goes up there too, yeah. When you look at, if you look at the adjudication goes all the way up here, usually in the rock formations, that's where you're not gonna have an aquifer, right? And so, at least that you could drill to. So we have little fingerlings that come down from the Fremont Basin. And then the rest of us, we're all in the Antelope Valley Groundwater Basin. So Fremont Valley, though, there's no places to drill right there because of the geology. But if you go up just about a mile away from our border, there's the hydrologist said there's a couple good places. And Larry Rotman had always told me that he thinks there's water, a ton of water there. And now it's the quality. If there's an arsenic problem, we put in an arsenic scrubbing machine to take it down to a certain level. It's going to cost us. But then if we bring it to tank 5, if that cost is cheaper than buying AVAC water that's going to go up 8% a year.
How close is that to where William Fisher was?
Oh no, William Fisher's over this way in the middle of nowhere, over the hills and through the woods, for the Joshua trees. No, in fact, they didn't have Joshua trees, they had just like junipers, you know. So it's in the middle. It's when you look at the topography. You guys know the topography here better than I do, but you know you got the mine of those hills, and we're talking this is where we're going, and they're over this way, and over the hill that way.
We're talking along Sierra Highway.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about drilling a well along Sierra Highway and just run a pipe down the easement of Sierra Highway. So we're crossing our fingers. We're going to do one westward well and then do an eastward well if we need to. So Kennedy James is planning on that.
Is that kind of like where Dinsel Cameron's place used to be?
East of there.
Okay. Oh, I know. During the freeway in Sierra Highway. Okay, that'll work.
So that would set us up for a really long time.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Nope, that's it. Water Master's sort of calming down like I said it would. As soon as all the little battles are over, nobody's going to be at the meetings. You won't even be able to get a board member. They're going to be board stiffed. That was not a pun, board stiffed.
All right, let's move on. Assistant General Manager update. Mr. Howell.
The Public Works guys had worked on 16 service line leaks since your last meeting. They delivered 279 late notices. They've also installed a few of the commercial master meters and also working on the percolation pond at the wastewater treatment plant. That's all I have.
That's all you got. All right, thank you. Director of Finance.
No update at this time, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any comment there?
Brock is on vacation.
Brock is on vacation. We let him go once in a while.
Every now and then.
Where is that?
Director of Administration and Board Secretary update.
As many of you have noticed, we have a new sound system in here. So hopefully,
And it's lovely.
right? And hopefully the timer will work by the next board meeting.
It doesn't do the beep, beep, beep,
Yes.
beep, beep, beep.
You got rid of the static tone.
We did.
All right,
And then
great.
following
If
that,
anyone's
the clock.
nostalgic, I can do that for a while.
Yeah. All right. With that, we will adjourn as a 7:25.